Hello and welcome. This is Netasq Al-Qurashi. Today I'm going to explain to you the single sign-on authentication method using Netasq firewalls. In this video we are going to see what is the SSO, we will see the requirements and the lab diagram, we will go through the steps, and finally we will check the policy and the real-time monitor. Single sign-on is a way that allows a user to authenticate only once and then to be able to access multiple services that require authentication. So the user doesn't need to authenticate each time it's trying to access a service. Only a single login will be required. In Netasq, the user will be authenticated to Active Directory, and then we have an SSO agent which is monitoring the Active Directory logs, and whenever it sees a new session for a user authenticated in the Active Directory, it will update Netasq firewall with this information, and hence Netasq firewall will identify that this user is authenticated and it will apply the right policy for this user. The requirements will be having a Windows Active Directory domain, and you will need the SSO agent installed on a server or on a PC or on the Active Directory, which must be a member of the domain on any PC or server that is member of the domain. And also you will need a Netasq UTM firewall. The SSO agent will require to run using a user, and this user must be an Active Directory user with the privilege to read the events log and to be able to log in as a service. And also we need to enable the logging of the open sessions on the Active Directory. Through this video we will see how to do all these privileges. The lab diagram we are going to use is a very simple diagram. We have a local network with a domain controller and PCs inside. We have Netasq firewall, which is the default gateway for this network, and we have Netasq firewall connected to a network that has access to the internet. Netasq is doing NATing, the address translation. The users in this network on the subnet 10.0.0.x/24, and the Active Directory is also on the same network with the same subnet. So it's very simple, straightforward, and they are all going to internet through the internal interface of Netasq, which is 10.0.0.254, and Netasq is doing NAT translation, and they're going through a public network on 192.168.100.254. Of course this is a private IP, but it's just for the sake of the lab. This subnet has an access to the internet. We will come to the configuration part, where we need to do three steps. First step is to configure the Active Directory server. Second step is to install the SSO agent, and the last step is to configure the Netasq firewall. So we will start by the first step, to configure the Active Directory server. It's very simple and straightforward. I will go to Server Manager in order to create a user. For this user I will create, it will be used by the SSO agent to log in as a service and to read the logs from the Active Directory. In order to do that, first thing I need to create a user. I will go to Tools and Active Directory Users and Computers. Right click on Users, and I will click on New User. Then I need to provide a name for this user. I will name it SSO Agent. You can choose the name that you prefer. And then I need to provide a complex password according to the security policy. You have it in the domain. And I will uncheck the user must change the password at next logon, because it will be logging as a service, so just to avoid any trouble. In my case I will choose to password never expires, because I don't want every time to go to the SSO agent and modify the configuration. It's up to you according to the security level you are looking for. So next and finish, and I have the user created. I will make this user member of the event log reader, so double click on the user. I will go to member of, add. You can type part of the group name and click on check names. It will continue the name for you. So now the user I have added to the group of event log readers. That means it has access to read the logs. So the user now is created. The user has the right access. The second thing I need to do is to go to local policy. In the local security policy, there are two things to be done. First, I need to let this user get an access to login as a service, which means I need to go to local policies, user rights assignments. I need to search for login as a service. Here it is, login as a service. And inside login as a service, I need to add the user to give it the permission. So I will type the name of the user that I have created. Check, so it will continue the name for you. And okay. The second thing I need to do in the local security policy is that inside the advanced audit policy configuration, inside the system audit policies, you have to go to login, logoff, where inside the login, the audit login, I need to enable the log for it. So I will just enable these options for the login. So whenever there is a login is occurring, it will write the appropriate log for it, where the SSO agent will be able to read it. So now we are done for the configuring the Active Directory, and we are going to move to next step. Second step of the configuration, we are going to install the SSO agent. In my case, I will install it on a PC belongs to the domain. I will not install it to the Active Directory just to avoid any conflict. So this is a PC that belongs to the same domain, which is training.lab. Okay, and I am logged in with the user John Smith. The first thing you will need to do is to install the package, and this package you can download it from the secure area of Netasq. The link will be provided with the link for your firewall. So any registered firewall you have in Netasq, you can download from there the SSO agent software. So I will install the software. I will run it as administrator. I will confirm and then follow the wizard. I will accept the license agreement, confirm the destination folder for the installation package, and then you have the option to choose if you are installing this SSO agent on a domain controller or you are running it in somewhere else. So in our case, we are not installing it on domain controller, we are installing it on a PC that belongs to the domain. In the first case, it will choose to run the SSO agent as a local service account on the domain controller, but in our case we are going to use the SSO agent account that we have created to run this service. So I will choose the second option and I will say next. I will provide the account information, domain name first and the username, and then the password for this user. You need also to confirm the password and next. In order to secure the communication between the SSO agent and Netasq firewall, we are going to use a pre-shared key to encrypt the information and communication. So the pre-shared key, also you need to choose a complex one. Next and next, and here you go. The installation is done and everything is fine. To check that it has been installed or not, I will go to services and I will search for Netasq SSO agent. I can see that the agent is set to automatically start, which is the case that we want, and I will check that in the login it is going to log in as training domain and SSO agent user. You need to start the service, and here you go, the service is started, or you could just reboot the PC and then the service will start anyway. So here's the step 2 is done. As you see, it's very simple. Now we are going to check the step 3. Now the third step will be configuring Netasq firewall. First, we need to know that since we have installed the SSO agent on this PC, I need to know the IP address of this PC, which is, as you can see, it's 10.00.20. So this is the IP of the PC which is running the SSO agent service. Now I will go to Netasq firewall and log in on HTTPS IP address of the firewall /admin, and I will log in. And there are two objects I need to configure. those two objects, one of them is going to be the Active Directory server IP, and the second one is going to be the IP of the SSO agent. Since this firewall is already fully integrated with the Active Directory and for this lab, so the IP of the Active Directory is already added, but the only object we are going to need to create is the SSO agent PC. So I will go to objects, network objects, and I will create the one which is called SSO agent. And I need to provide the IP 10.00.20 and create. So now the object is created. In order to do the configuration for the SSO agent, you need to go to users, and you need to go to authentication, and then we need first thing to add the authentication method of the SSO. So I need to add a method and select SSO agent. In the SSO agent, it will ask me for the IP address of the SSO agent, which I have just created. So I can just type and search for it, and it immediately will appear. It will ask for the pre-shared key that I have entered during the installation wizard, and I have just provided. And down here you need to provide the domain controller, which is the one I have already created under the AD server. So now I have the domain controller added, and I have the SSO agent IP, and the pre-shared key is also added. So I will save the configuration. Then I need to enable the authentication policy. So here I said what are the available authentication methods I have. I added the SSO agent, and now I need to create a policy for the authentication. As you can see, I don't have any policy right now, so I will create a new policy. I will click on standard rule, new rule, standard rule. I want all the users to be authenticated user using the SSO agent, or you could select a special group or username, but in my case I will say all. And then from which networks it will be connected, I will say any user which is coming from the internal networks, network internals object. And next, and here I will add the method I want to do authentication through, which is the SSO agent, and I need to make sure that it is on top. Okay, and I will finish the wizard. So I have the rule created for me. All users from internal networks are allowed to authenticate using the SSO agent, but it's not enabled, so I will double click and make it enabled. So as you can see, we have created the SSO agent authentication. We have created the IP and put the pre-shared key, added the domain controller, and in the authentication policy we have created the policy for authentication. And so as for now, the SSO agent configuration on the firewall is done. The next thing is to check this policy by applying some policies using username, and check that in the real-time monitor to see how it is working. So let's review what we have done so far. As a summary for what we have done, we have created a user and set to the member of event log readers. Then in the local security policy, we have made the user to log in as a service, and we enabled the log for logon audit. Then we installed the SSO agent on the PC, member of the domain, and during the wizard of installation we have entered the user and the domain name with the password. Also we provided the pre-shared key, and then we confirmed that the service is set to automatic and make sure it was started. And also on the firewall side, we have created an object for the firewall on the firewall for the single sign-on agent IP, the PC which the SSO is installed. And then under users authentication, we have added an SSO agent method. We provided the host IP of the PC which is holding the SSO agent. We entered the pre-shared key, and then we entered the domain controller host IP object. In our case, it was already added because the firewall was already configured to integrate with Active Directory. And under authentication policy, we have created a rule to allow all users from the internal networks to use SSO agent method, and then you are good to go and test the policy and check on real-time monitor, which is what we are going to do right now. In order to check the policy, we need to apply under the security policy filter and NAT. We need to create a rule to be based on the users. So as for now, I don't have any rule. Let me give you an idea about this policy. I have a policy that allow from any source to the firewall all the IP addresses of the firewall, all interfaces of the firewall, on the admin SRV, which are the ports are used to manage the firewall SSH and the web administration page, in addition to the reporting application. So I'm allowing this. I'm allowing also from Active Directory server to internet on DNS port. I'm also allowing network internals to only go to Active Directory server on DNS. So only Active Directory can access internet on port DNS, but all the rest of network must go through Active Directory for DNS. And also I am allowing from network internals to any destination to use ICMP echo request to ping only, not the whole ICMP protocol, but only echo request for the pinging. And also I'm allowing here in this rule to allow my internal networks to access internet on port HTTP while URL filtering is applied. This filtering profile, which is default 00, it includes a block for news category. So if there is any website on news, it will be blocked. The last rule is to allow HTTPS. So right now, if I'm trying to access a website on HTTP, which belongs to the category of news, it is going to be blocked. Let me try. I'll try to open CNN, for example, and CNN, it appeared to be blocked because it's belonging to category news. And now I will create a new rule. I'll make it on top of this rule. In this rule I will say the users, I will select all, which means all authenticated users. Okay, I will select coming from network internals, just to specify it from which network it is going. So I have now in this rule any at network internals. I will make destination internet. I will make the destination port also HTTP. I will make it set it to pass and will turn it on, but I will apply a different URL filtering. For example, I will use a profile default 01, which in this profile the news is allowed. So I will save and activate the policy. Now the policy is set to, for the authenticated users, they are going to apply on URL filtering 01, and for non-authenticated users, they are going through default 00. So now I will go to open a new tab and try to open CNN. And as you can see, now CNN is enabled. It's working because it's going through the user authenticated, and that's why it's passing through this rule. Again, if I just turn off this rule and apply and try again, it will be blocked, as you can see. So now the next thing we are going to do is to check on the real-time monitor policy. So I will go to the software of real-time monitor, and you can see here in the real-time monitor you have the dashboard, and you can check the events, you can check if there are any vulnerabilities detected in the network. Anyway, I will go to users, where I can see I have two users logged in. One of them is Al-Qurashi. It is the user I am using for testing. So you can see that without logging or enabling any authentication portal, the Netasq firewall was able to detect the IP and the username. So also if you go to hosts, for example, and check this host, for example, so you can see the IP address, the username, what is the operating system, and any information. So it can detect it. Like there are 6 applications. One of them is the Download Accelerator Plus, Firefox, Internet Explorer, and all these details. So now you can have all this information connected to the username, so you can have full information. And if there are any vulnerability detected for this PC, you can also tell which username is the source of these vulnerabilities. And of course you can check some information and the connections that are open by this user, and any event, any alarm on this user, so you can see them all. And all of that, thanks to the SSO agent, you have the possibility to have this visibility on the not only on the IP address but also on the username. I hope this video has been informative to you. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.